Today we're talking about the Nautilus. Let's get to it. How's it going, citizens? I'm Sir6, your salty aerospace technician, and welcome to another Star Citizen Analytics video. If you are new to my channel or Star Citizen and you want a better understanding of how things work in the verse, then consider subscribing and turning on all those notifications so you never miss anything. And if you'd like to further optimize your knowledge of the verse, you should definitely check out other videos in my channel because they're all here to guide you to success. Now, in late August, we were introduced to the Aegis Nautilus, the mine layer, and the mine sweeper. Today we're going to break this ship down piece by piece. So without further ado, let's start off with mines and a quick history lesson. Now, mines have been used back at the earliest since the 16th century, and maybe even further. They were used in particularly during the Revolutionary War by none other than David Bushnell. David Bushnell designed and built his own wooden submarine. This was used to place mines under the hull of British warships that were staged in the harbor of New York. Now, jumping back to the 21st century, mines have been used for harassing ships and by blocking trade routes. They also can be used for mainly psychological warfare. You see, the assumption is that mines are spread out along a large area, making the assumption that the whole place has to be swept. It only takes one strategically placed mine to halt a trade route for days while that whole area is being swept to make sure that one mine is found. Now, within Star Citizen, I personally believe that mines are going to be used for mainly area of denial. Let's use this as an example. Say you have a scanning ship like a Terrapin, your good old space turtle. You find a lucrative asteroid belt or a lucrative salvaging site. You don't have the means necessary to gather all the resources now, so instead you place mines down so that you block off the area. If somebody else has defined this area and they really want that site, they have to sacrifice their time just to get rid of the mines. Or they'll just find a different site and then you get to keep everything in there. I also believe mines are going to be used for funneling ships into a trap or rerouting them. It would only make sense in the future if we saw the Nautilus being used at checkpoints. If you are to get interdicted and the UEE wants to scan you, they can give you a prompt saying, hey, we're going to scan you. If you take any evasive maneuvers, you'll get blown up by mines. Once they're done scanning you, they'll tell you which way to go so you do not get blown up. And then you continue along your way. Now, to dive even further into mines, there are two types that have been announced by the developer. You have your sentry drone mines and you have your conventional mines. Your sentry drone mines include two size 2 weapons. I would hope you'll be able to customize them. Now, these are mainly used for perimeter defense. Now, once these drones are deployed, they'll pivot on a swivel and engage anything that's within its range. Now you have your conventional mine, which works also off proximity. Once a ship gets close, it'll use its tiny thrusters to maneuver itself toward the ship, and once it gets close enough, it'll blow up in a proximity effect. Speaking of detection, these mines are incredibly hard to detect. Think of this as skimmer missions that you would do at comrades. These beacons are extremely small, thus you need to get really close in order for you to find them and detect them on your actual radar. You can send out a ping to see what's in the general area, but remember, the ping only tells you that there's an object within a certain range. It does not tell you what that object is until you get extremely close. Now, if this is a mine, by the time you get close, it's already flying towards you and it might be too late. What makes up the detection is how big your ship is, your electromagnetic and IR signature, which all encompasses your ship components. Now, in the future, subcomponents and higher grade components and specific class components will alter the performance of a ship, and hopefully a mine as well. Now, in the future, I would recommend that you use stealth components with a high grade, and you would further tailor them with the subcomponents in the future. This will overall reduce your EM and IR signature, thus mines will have a harder time detecting you. Now, if any of this confused you, then don't worry, I have two videos that will help you. The first one is being ship emissions, and the second one being understanding ship components. You should definitely check those out after you're done with this video to get a better understanding of, again, how things work in the verse. Now guys, don't let this intimidate you. There are still other ways to get rid of a mine. First of all, scanning ships like a Terrapin, or any ship really that has an enhanced sensor suite, then you'll be able to scan down the mines. Also, using EMP and distortion weapons will disable a mine so you can go in and destroy them. There's also another way you can get rid of mines, but I'll touch up on that when the time comes. Alright, so once the mines are deployed, they will last for a couple of days. So with that being said, you need to give them routine maintenance so you can prolong their use. I would hope that in the future, once these mines are able to be bought in the verse, that it'll be more efficient to keep the mine alive instead of just going to buy more. Now, the actual process of deploying a mine is actually really slow. I personally think deploying a mine will not take long because all it needs to do is get jettisoned out of the aft section of the ship. Then it will be stationary until it is moved through the use of a Nemo drone. Now, the Nemo drone is designed to rearm, move, and disable the mines whenever needed, and also to recover them into the ship again. So with that being said, if these drones are to get blown up while in use, it will render the ship useless, so you need to make sure they are protected. Also, drones in general need to be controlled through the use of a control console, which is incorporated into the ship. When you give a drone a task, it will go and do it. If you leave the console while it's in the middle of its task, it will complete the task and then stay idle until you give it another command, or until you go into the control console and then start controlling it again. If this drone gets out of range, it'll get extremely sluggish until you get back into range. But overall, with this being said about the drones, this requires a lot of micromanagement. Now, in terms of damage, these mines are the equivalent to a size 5 torpedo. And thinking about this, I really don't think it's going to be effective against capital class vessels. While I think it can harass them, it will not be able to kill them. Hear me out. An electromagnetic torpedo does less than 10,000 damage, just shy of it. It takes 4 size 9 cross-section torpedoes just to kill a hammerhead. That is over 250,000 damage total just to overwhelm the hammerhead. If you are to use all 24 conventional mines, then you would only equate to 240,000 DPS. That's almost 8 grand shy of what you need to kill a hammerhead. And your sentry drones, being only having 2 size 2 guns, if you are able to equip your own set of guns and you decide to put on the highest damaging weapon, which would happen to be scatter guns, if you deploy all 24 mines, you would only equate 43,000 DPS. And also, again, your range is reduced, and we don't count the fact that the hammerhead and many other ships in the game doesn't have armor. So with that being said, for me personally, the mines can definitely be used for harassing a capital ship, but it's mainly to target larger ships and capital class vessels, escorts, and smaller ships. Overall, if you are to damage or destroy a lot of its fighters, it would render the mothership really exposed, and therefore you would have the upper hand. Alright, so with all this information about mines, let's actually take a look at the ship itself. Now, according to the developers, the Nautilus is heavily armored, but only front-wise. If you look at the aft section of the ship, it looks relatively weak and exposed. Mainly, I believe, because this is where the Nemo drones are deployed, and the mines are deployed too. In terms of its defensive capabilities, the ship has a massive size 7 turret that holds 2 size 7 guns. It also has 2 size 3 turrets that hold 2 size 3 guns on either side, and it has a missile turret as well. The ship has 3 large shield generators too, so already on paper this ship can definitely defend itself. Now within the ship you have 3 decks, the top deck, the main deck, and the sweep deck. Let's take a look at the top deck first. In the center of the ship you have the central lift, which gives you access between all 3 decks. Now within the top deck you have the mine depot that stores all your mines. And you also have the mine control room for total control over mine queuing and deployment. So for me, I feel like this means that you are able to queue if you want to deploy an actual mine or a sentry drone within the next cycle. Alright, so now let's go down the central lift and take a look at the main deck. Now the main deck seems like this is where it encompasses most of the operations of the ship. So within the main deck you have both your turret stations, which of course hold the size 3 guns. As you can see here, the bridge is located at the nose of the ship. And next to the lift you have the chow hall, and across the way you have the crew quarters. And not too far off you have the captain's quarters as well. Toward the aft end of the ship you have the engineering station, and you have the escape pods too for the crew. And also you have a docking collar for logistical purposes. Now let's go down the lift again and take a look at the sweep deck. Now down here is where your Nemo drones are stored. You also have your cargo bay that holds 64 SCU, and the massive size 7 dual turret at the nose. However, for me, I feel like it should be accessed through the bridge, if this would only make sense, but if not, then so be it, it's no sweat. You also have the mine retrieval bay for when you sweep up your mines. Now let's look at the stats. We already know the ship has 3 large shield generators, which is actually really good. So along with these shield generators, the ship also comes with 2 large power plants, coolers, fuel tanks, quantum fuel tanks, and 1 large life support, jump drive, quantum drive, and countermeasure buckets too. This is still a lot of information that's being presented before you. It's also said that this ship is a lone wolf. Now for me personally, I feel like this ship is 100% a lone wolf, not soloable. The difference between the two is when you say you can solo a ship, that means you can do 75 to 100% of the operations by yourself. We already know this is not true for this ship because you need at least 4 people to perform all the roles. The reason I say this is a lone wolf vessel is because you can do its primary role without anybody there to help you or assist. To me, this is definitely a defensive ship. You don't want to take this into the front lines, you don't want to take it head into battle. Your job is to set up mines in the background. You are to not be heard nor seen. Now don't get me wrong guys, this ship can be a lone wolf, but as I always say, and as I was always told in the Marine Corps, always have a battle buddy, no matter what. Now while it's my opinion that the Nautilus is not meant for direct combat, it can be used for it when you're in a fleet. Within the verse, you can jump between multiple points to try to get around your enemy. So therefore, setting up mines at different OM markers, once again, or setting it up behind your fleet could protect them from an ambush. And while your enemies are occupied with the mines, you can adjust your fleet as such to protect the flanks. This saves you time so that you don't get yourself into a very tight situation. In the end, I ended up purchasing one because this definitely fits my playstyle. I'm always working behind the scenes if you didn't already know this. Since I'm primarily industry focused in the game, if I have a research facility or I have a refining facility that needs protecting, instead of hiring an NPC, I can just lay down some mines so that I can have a sense of ease when I'm not currently playing the game. If this fits your role-playing style as well, then I recommend that you would earn one in-game if you do not have the funds to try to buy one now. Because I'm not gonna lie, something over $700 has to really shine out for you to want to buy it, especially if it's just a JPEG. So if you're industry focused like me and you would like some sort of protection without having to expend your money hiring somebody, then this may be a viable option. But rather than that, if this doesn't fit your playstyle, then just steer clear and fly with somebody else once it's available in game. As always, I thank you for the love and support. If you enjoyed this video and you got something out of it, then please consider liking it and sharing with anybody who will find this helpful. Also, tell me your own thoughts on the Nautilus in the comments below. Did you get one? Are you not going to get one? Doesn't fit your playstyle at all? Let me know in the comments below. I love having a conversation with you guys because you're all awesome. Also, feel free to subscribe. Remember, citizens, your subscriptions help me reach out even further to the community so they also can benefit from my content. And if you would like to, you can further support me on Patreon. It's never necessary, but it's always appreciated. But until next time, fellow citizens, I will see you on the flip side.